Stay right there. What are you waiting for? Kill them! Kill them both! No, wait a minute. Is it money you're after? I'll give you as much as you want.
May the saints forgive you, because I won't.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Herby. I'm usually on Twitter, do anything I like mostly, but I'm really obsessed with Asian culture, idol culture, cinema, weird movies, and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter. I'm actually trying to work something out with the boys to make like a Twitch channel or VTuber persona, a character. So yeah, stay tuned for that. You can like check me out on Twitter at WSKRSHNY. It's a very weird freaking ad, but like yeah, you can follow me there. Uh,
Awesome. Thanks, Herbie, and appreciate you coming on. Of course, we've been talking about this for like 6
yeah,
months. Yeah, like quite a
I
while,
think
and we
so.
have a lot in common. Like we like a lot of the same.
Hmm.
You're like way out there, and I'm pretty out there. So, but we have a lot in
Hmm.
common regardless. And so I appreciate you as a follower and as a mutual. Thank you.
Yes, dude. Thank you for having us too. It's been an honestly, yeah. I've always thought of like coming on and just like just hearing your side of things, especially on your point of view on cinema, because I saw like you have a lot of things and like as you said, we have a lot of common and just like in your taste in like Hong Kong cinema in particular is very refined. Usually
Thank
you don't
you.
see
I
that.
appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
a real one right there. Yeah, for real. No, I have really good Hong Kong cinema taste. Well, I mean, you know this, Herbie, but I am
Hmm.
biracial, so I grew up a
Hmm.
little bit in Hong Kong as well.
Oh
So
hell yeah.
I'm a little more like some people are just like more. I guess Wasian is really cool right now, but some people are just very Wasian and like, but they're like very Western in their kind of like
Hmm.
orientation. I'm like kind of both. So like I have that fobby thing, and then I also have like the very like North American like Canada hockey bro
Mm.
family, right? So it's both. So I learned to like really like narrow down and like select the things that I actually like, not just what is other people think is popular. So I appreciate that you noticed that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like honestly, I had a feeling you would be from Hong Kong, but for some reason I was kind of rubbing you towards Cambodia. I don't know why. Like I think
My dad's from Indonesia. So I'm
okay.
Chinese Indonesian. So
Oh,
that's
it's
why.
cool, cool, cool. That's awesome.
I never lived in Indonesia or anything like that.
Hmm. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome, honestly. I just knew because we have a mutual friend in common, Cloud, and wherever he may be, I hope he's listening. So if he does, yeah, dude, I hope you're doing well. We miss you. And yeah, like he's been in Thailand for a long time, and I knew that you guys were acquainted in the past too. Like you were in the same group or something. Am I right?
Oh yeah, we were in a Dharma group together for like 2
Mm-hmm.
years. Yeah,
Mm.
because that is actually how I met most of the people. Like I have a co-host who's in the Dharma group. I like Solar. I have other, I've like a lot of people from my Twitter circle are from like this
Mm.
Buddhist. There's other people in it, like some really popular. I won't dox her, but there's some really
Mm.
popular like kind of like Dharma posters as well from it. And so we all kind of know each other from this. It's like a extended network. So I was really happy to have him on and like talk about Thai Buddhism because I obviously am
Nice.
not That's not the kind of Buddhism that I practice, so it's like
Mhm,
it's for very fresh conversation for me. But so I
mm,
appreciate them. So if he's out there listening, Wayward Cloud, your episode was amazing. Thank you so much for coming
mhm,
on.
yeah. So yeah, yeah, I felt like you guys would be like tightly connected because I think everyone knew from the Dharma group like each other personally in real life too. Or I might be mistaken. I don't know. But like yeah, most of the stuff like I'm not that. I do love reading about like Eastern philosophy, Eastern like esoteric. Not exactly like in a practicing way, but I kind of like the ideas that are like expressed like one of the guys, he's a bit of a meme, but I kind of like his style of preaching. I think you're very familiar with the person Mantak Chia, I think is what it's called.
Of course, because he's also from my diet. Well, he's Malaysian China or Chinese Malaysian, but so yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah,
familiar with like his kind of presentation of Taoism and
yeah.
sort of esoteric Buddhism. It's a what we would call Kabatinan or Kajawan, which is it's like
Mhm,
the ethnic Javanese kind of like magic, or it's kind of syncretic. That's what it really is. It's really theosophical.
mhm,
It has a lot to do with like Tantra,
mhm,
Sufism, Hinduism,
mhm,
magical Buddhism, Kabbalah, and like animistic kind of like what I
mhm,
we would call like practices from like the Dakun or like a shaman.
mhm.
So it's like
Yeah,
all mixed together and people kind of practice it as an urban way. My dad's into it, like really into it. And I was always
mhm,
like around it as a kid. So not the
yeah.
Montauk Chia stuff particularly, but from the greater kind of like the from like the kind of Kabatinan, like the kind of like self-improvement through like
Yeah, yeah,
spiritual
yeah.
practices idea.
Yeah. I mean, like Montauk Che is like a straight up rapist in a sense. Like he's not a traditional like
Yeah,
Taoist
that's what I mean.
preacher
I was
for
trying
sure.
to be
Yeah.
polite about it, but yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, it
Yeah.
kind of goes along with our phone.
Yeah. That's why I kind of like brought him up because the attitude, the I'm just gonna say the Eastern region in general, they have such a healthy attitude towards sex, which is kind of insane. I think it comes from the territory almost because it feels like a cultural thing, right? Like usually in the most Western spheres, I mean, Europe isn't that prudish, but like in America, it's kind of weird that people have this like Puritan mindset that where like when talking about sex, they just have to like close their eyes and stuff. But like no, in like the Asian regions, they don't really care about that. It's a healthy attitude. It's like it's almost like peeing or like pooping for them almost. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
it's definitely more biological for sure.
Mhm.
They're very prudish. I mean, like, if you grew up like me, like I'm not saying that I'm like super prude or anything. I'm not, and I'm not like innocent or anything like that, but I'm just I mean though that it is a very conservative. Like, the things discussed are very
Yeah.
less, but yeah, you definitely think of it's definitely not European in that way. Like, you'd
Mhm.
never discuss sexuality or sex or anything like that.
Mhm.
But in terms of pervasiveness in society, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, it is very pervasive, and it's very, like
Mhm.
people just acknowledge it, you know? It's, like, especially, like, Hong Kong, like, a lot of people have mistresses, it's just a part of
Mhm.
life, and it's, like, how you kind of
Yeah.
understand, people's have complicated family dynamics, but you just don't really comment on it. Like, it might
Mm.
be in your face, but you just don't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I meant. Like, conservative values are gonna exist, but it's not gonna be like something that's actively suppressed. I mean, everyone is not gonna love to have like a sausage dangling in front of them, right? Obviously, they have to be modest, dress modest. No, you can just like go butt naked to a meeting or anything like that. But like that attitude in general is more healthy to have than like let's say just outright shaming or just kind of like shaming people for having such thoughts while like Hong Kong or Japan in general just had like an entire sexploitation market. I mean, America did too. Like in America, it was kind of like a unhealthy thing almost, like kind of an obsession. Well, like Hong Kong is just like a butt of the joke, like in this movie.
Well, it's so funny, Herbie, because this is something you and I have talked about privately is kind of like
Mhm,
the way money Well, we'll just speak really plainly. Like, there's the Stephen
Mm,
Teo book. He basically lays it out like
mhm,
A City on Fire. I know that's also the name of a John Woo movie. It's also the name of a Stephen Teo book, who's pretty much one of the preeminent Hong Kong film scholars. But he talks about how the mob, the triad, particularly, obviously, and the yakuza as well,
mhm,
through Taiwan, would want to make art films, like high quality art films, but they're not afraid of making exploitation films either, like to to launder the money. So but they're always tended to be high quality, and they tended to be actually kind of like decent
mm.
productions. And
The,
so I think that this is like one of the commonalities that you and I have. Like, we tend to
mm,
like very key, what we would call like very kino cinema. Has to
mhm.
look good, has to be like cinematographical, it has to be
A high production value, just
right.
like
It's
a
not
lot of
just we're not it's
passion.
not just
Yeah.
sorry, yes, it's not third world. Is exactly that's the word I was looking for, but yeah, for sure.
I mean, like in this sense, I guess you could kind of say they're on the lower side of things. Like America, Hollywood has all these technology and stuff, but like compared to Hong Kong, they just have much more heart, and they do love to tackle issues that American movies wouldn't usually tackle. You know, like even like Japanese cinema, you just see things that kind of take you aback in a good way that you wouldn't usually see in an American movie, and that kind of sticks with you. That kind of like makes you want to like learn more about the culture too, because more than just like a piece of cinema that you just indulge in, it's also a kind of like a travelogue because through movies you learn about things and you learn about culture in general too.
I think that Hong Kong is really successful, like Hong Kong cinema is really successful as like a soft
Mhm.
power experiment of like transmitting
Yeah.
Cantonese, specifically Cantonese language, culture, and Hong Kong sort of like city life culture
Mhm.
to not just the diaspora, but for like people who are interested in a very particular kind of cinema. Because
Mhm.
as you know, Herbie, this is not was not this is cool on Twitter now. Like all
Yeah.
this, like, Cynthia Rothrock, Michelle Yeoh, and like Moon Lee and
Yeah, yeah,
Yukari
yeah, yeah.
Oshima,
All
like
the
that's
girls with
like
gun stuff. Yeah.
yeah, that's cool now, but when I was young, that was not cool. It was
Yeah.
not cool to like diaspora film, it was not cool to like Cantonese cinemas, particularly, especially
Mhm.
this push towards, like, Mandarin language in the early 2000s. People were
Mhm.
not really, like, interested in, like, what Hong Kong had produced. Even
Yeah.
film scholarship was very, like, tepid and, like, being like, "Yeah, it's niche, it's kind of like art pop," that's one of the ways that you would describe
Mhm.
it, or art wave. And it's not quite as good. It's not quite
Mhm.
as good as, like, European or American cinema. It's kind of like a dysfunctional regional cinema that's, like, going out of it's gonna die off with with the
Mhm.
handover. But I think
Yeah.
that one thing is true about Hong Kong cinema is it has a, like, really good it's really good on the internet because it is so kinetic, you can actually
Mhm.
capture it really well in a GIF. So I think that's one of its
Yeah.
strengths.
One of the favorite things I love doing is when I'm like watching a movie from Hong Kong. It's been a recent obsession too. Like I'm watching a movie from Hong Kong. I see like I usually love watching comedies, not even category three, like generally comedies, and usually there's a scene where they just beat up a woman for comedic effect, and I love taking like gifs of that and like put it online because it's so freaking funny that people can do that. It's like another like cultural distinction. I remember like when Final Fight came out, people I think it was Final Fight. Yeah, yeah, it was Final Fight or Street Fighter, one of those games. Uh, there was a character Poison. She was a female in the Japanese version. You could beat her up, look at do all these wrestling moves on her. That was fine in Japan. Then they take the arcade to the US. They have to do a entire new backstory for her because the executives thought maybe this is not gonna be okay in America because you're actually beating up a woman, and that's a no-no. So they had to came up with like something, a backstory that she was actually a new half, so it was actually okay to beat her up.
What did they
So
mean by that?
yeah, I wonder what they mean by that. But yeah, it definitely is like a kinetic thing, like especially in Hong Kong cinema. Just like it's like how kids today are obsessed with like watching TikToks of like Subway surfers and stuff. That was like Hong Kong cinema kind of taps into that mentality. It's just all reaction. Wong Jing's movies in general, because Wong Jing knew what the public wanted. Because there was a lot of filmmakers in Hong Kong. There was like the more artsier types, like Wong Kar-wai, and even though their movies are good, entertaining, well shot, it wasn't exactly what the public wanted. But Wong Jing like knows exactly what the Hong Kongese or the Hong Kongers want. So that's why they're always really offbeat, politically incorrect humor, a lot of like action, and just in general, a lot of hot women, because that's what he knew that's what the Hong Kongers wanted.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so true that I love Wong Kar-wai's films. Like I love basically all his like whole oeuvre, but I'm be the first to say that that is not local cinema. That is
Yeah.
export. That is art cinema for export for
Mm,
US audience or European audience for sure, or even a
yeah.
diaspora audience. There's no
Totally.
question, and Wong Jing is definitely a local that's for local tastes and local sensibilities, and the idea of hot women. It is something that I personally tie to Hong Kong because, all I mean, because I was a kid and people would like talk about the lives of the celebrities, so they were a lot more
Mm,
real to me, those kind of celebrities than like westerns. Like I didn't really have a concept of western celebrities. Even now, it's still kind of like it's not the same as like the when as you're a kid, I guess that the impression that you get from wherever you are. So
mm,
those celebrities are always very real to me and like their kind of life dramas and the
mm.
actresses getting sort of like involved with this triad person or this Hong Kong casino mogul or this real estate developer or this person. I mean, it's much more dramatic in a way than even Hollywood is. It's less
Mm.
like drugs and sin. I mean, it has that too, but it's a lot more
Yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
love and like complicated family relationships and like
Yeah. It
that
feels
kind
real
of stuff.
family. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, they love Cantonese is this is a big difference between Mandarin language cinema. Cantonese is very vulgar and it works
Mhm.
great for wordplay. So it's perfect for a Cantonese audience to have like rhymes that are like full of like scatological or sexual nature because you can make a lot of puns, right? Because
Mhm.
Chinese people
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially, but Cantonese in particular, they love a word game. They love a pun so much. And it's like the basis of all Chinese poetry is basically like word puns. How many different poems can you get out of this sequence of words?
Mhm.
So if you can do that with a script, like a common, popular, colloquial language script, that's success in my opinion. I know
Yeah,
I went
for
on for a long
sure.
time. I apologize.
I know, don't worry, man. I mean, I love your insights on this because I don't think I hear you talk about Hong Kong cinema in particular. So I'm sure like people who are even interested in your filmic takes, we're gonna love this totally for sure.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Herbie, because I honestly feel like a lot of people are not that interested in my filmic takes. And I've wanted to be a film podcast. Like, I don't want to change my show. Like, my show is like, I
Mm,
like what I do,
yeah.
obviously. But I do love talking about cinema. I think that
Mm.
cinema for me, there's obviously a magical element or a
Oh,
magical
for sure.
hermeneutical element. I
Yeah.
think you and I both are totally on board with this and agree.
Yeah. Totally.
Is that
Totally.
it's audio, it's visual, it's colors, it's movement, it's narrative. It's like everything that is magic. So
Hmm.
of course, it's great to look at cinema as a sorcerer, as a magician, or whatever you want to call it, because there's gonna be so much to glean. But I think
Mm.
in more broad terms, I think that the diaspora cinema and like my identity, whatever even that is, because all identities are kind of bullshit at the end of the day, and I totally agree with that. And basically, I'm just
Yeah.
American or Canadian or whatever. I also think though that it does inform a lot of like how I grew up and like my influences
Mm.
and like my cultural references.
Mm. Totally. Totally. I can see that for sure. But like, yeah, I think combining that with magic is way, way interesting than like just doing a movie podcast because that's the thing I kind of suffer. I don't want to be someone who's just associated with movies. I just want to have everything combined, because I feel like if I do that, I'm limiting myself. So just don't want to be known as the movie guy. I do also like play video games, like read books and all that, like try to combine them into a neat little package that people can get interested in. Through this one hobby, they can find an interest to another. I do love to kind of make a gateway for that for people, and just in general like expose people to things that are particularly not exposed. Like I don't see a point in what they call gatekeeping or gatekeep culture. In some cases it does make sense. It is necessary, but in general, like if people have the access to like high culture and they can like share that with others, they definitely need to take it for sure.
I'm really glad you said that too, because there's this other point of the sort of the point of this intersection of where we occupy on Twitter. I want to call it like a
Hmm.
liminal space where
Definitely.
we're not well, you're more of a you definitely have a far range of like people really love you for your film takes and like your
Mm,
culture, like your curation.
mm,
And people appreciate me. I'm not saying like I'm underappreciated or anything. I have a I'm much more limited in my reach and scope and like who I'm speaking to. People aren't really looking for me for cultural takes.
mm.
So I like that you do it in like yes, you do it in a very gonzo way. I'm sure you know you're quite the edge lord and you're very funny and you
Really.
have the best gifs and the best clips and the best like weirdest references of like films that are
Mm,
very hard to find. You know all this.
mm, mm.
But I like that because you are pushing against like the sort of norm core values of like the lame ass people who do want to gatekeep. Like I know a
Mm,
lot of people on like alt supposedly dissident right wing alt Twitter who have like the most like I love Japanese cinema. I love
mm.
all those like normie Hong Kong movies too. But there is like a point where like you are not special just because you are talking about like some uh like
Like
Kurosawa
Mishima Life
film.
in Four Chapters. Yeah, I was gonna say Mishima
Exactly.
Life in Four Chapters. Like, how many times you're gonna talk about that? Just find something new, dude. There's dozen
Exactly.
films like that that you can just or just kind of read Mishima. Like honestly, that's one of the problems I have with people from that street. I'm okay. I'm just gonna clarify. I'm not political, and I do appreciate anyone from every background, no matter what they are. But like the thing I really like is people expressing their own opinions and their own thoughts and their own passions. Passion is a key word here. I don't really like a hive mindset where some guy says, I like this, and they're all gonna say, yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is a good thing. Because one person said he likes that, and that's gonna be like the repeat. I really hate that. And I feel like when you're not just like this sphere of Twitter, but like if you go on Letterboxd or any other site like that, My Anime List, etc., you look at all these sites, people are not expressive. It's almost like they're not into the hobby at all. They just want to belong to a group. They don't really care about exploring things. They don't want to like find something that personally speaks to them. That's one of my key things. I never watched anything that was, like, acclaimed. If I did, I would probably be bored and not watch movies altogether. I especially looked for things that really spoke to me. I read the synopsis and I was like, "Wow, that kinda sounds interesting," and I looked at the cover. I just do cover and synopsis, and I don't do anything else, and, like, it sounds good to me, I check it out, and wow, it takes me aback. It feels like I'm a baby again, you know, like, I'm born anew. But like these people don't do that. They just want to like pretend and just mimic parrot people all day long.
I'm really glad you said that too, because it is so much an aesthetic. Like anime
Mm,
is probably the best example, but this is so true for Asian cinema Twitter as well, is that
mm,
it is really about the aesthetic that people tend to follow rather than actually like having like your own taste. And I think you really hit on it there, like it's your own taste. Like you don't have to
mm,
like the same exact film that I like. You don't
mm,
have to like I like Bride with the White Hair because every like Eurasian person who grew up in like the late 90s, early 2000s loves that film. That does
yeah.
not mean that everybody has to like that film. That's totally fine. That's like, it's like just to have like your own discernment and your own taste. And
Hmm.
that's what I think is your strength in
Mm,
particular, is that I think you just like what you like. It's gonzo, it's weird, it's out there. I also
mm,
like a lot of those weird, um, kind of J videos or those J horrors that are direct to video,
Mm.
those like, Lowly
Yeah,
versus
yeah, yeah.
Frankenstein, like all of that. I love all that stuff
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
I think that is so slept on. I think people are so afraid to be cringe. I think that like how can you discuss anime and be afraid to be cringe? That's what I don't really understand. It's like when you're talking about like me, I was watching anime when I was like a little kid. Like we were watching like a Benobashi, like
Mhm,
Magical Arcade, where they're making fun of all the tropes of like the big breasted women and the
mhm,
kind of like fandom and the fan culture and the etchy and like we were
mhm.
already talking about that in the late 90s. So like, like
Totally.
it's cringe. Anime is cringe. Get over it. Like I mean it is what it is.
Honestly, it is just a cultural thing, but yeah, I did prefer the times when the normal perception of anime back in the day was like a cringe thing, a nerd thing, because it gave kept all the people who didn't really belong there, right? Then like COVID hit, and everyone's apparently like a huge anime fan. Like Netflix, you open Netflix, anime is the one that keeps Netflix alive, and and Netflix is actually hiring Japanese animators to direct their own series or shows, and it's kind of a mess, really. It's getting way too corporate, and like anime was already corporate, but there was like a nuance to it. But now it's like it kind of is sucking that out with like Netflix and streaming and stuff. It's kind of like a sad evolution, really.
Look, we have to make this is what I think for my show. This is what I say, Herbie. Like you can
Mm,
disagree, and that's totally fine. But we have to make the culture right now, which is like if that is an archival culture, like this is very like millennial 90s, like kind of zine, like my show is kind of like that.
mm,
It mean even if we have to sift through the archive and sort of like bring up alchemically what is interesting to us, what is relevant to us, what makes sense for our world right now. And we have to like chop that up and remix it and make it into gifs or make it into like, well, I don't make do this, but Substack posts if people want to do that,
mm,
whatever, or stream it, or like I think that's a great idea for you guys, like to do
mm,
like a Twitch stream of like composite personality, where you
mm,
talk about these kinds of things, and that's what I think it is because I agree with you again. It can't be the same 10, it can't just be the same list of, like, the same 20 anime that everybody's, like, seen, like,
mm,
there's so many OVAs, there's so much, B what they call, like, B anime, which is, like, just kind of
mm,
like a 1 season throwaway, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Doesn't mean it's the best stuff, doesn't mean it's, like, high taste or whatever. I think people will make a big mistake in
mm.
always, and I think you said this, is looking for high culture in
Yeah.
everything. I don't think everything needs to be high culture. I think it's perfectly fine being gritty and on the streets.
I was gonna say like one man's treasure, or like actually one man's treasure is another man's treasure, and like that should be the mindset people should have for like media in general. So if someone doesn't like a thing, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna like it either. You just have to give it a shot. Maybe you love it. Like like the current state, I did really love Return to Silent Hill. Like there's friends of mine who kind of think I'm a crazy person for saying that. But I did exactly know what I was expecting when Return to Silent Hill announced.
You
When I
got
saw
brain
that
damage,
trailer,
bro. I'm sorry.
okay, hear me out though. It's exactly like 2000s horror film. It just happens to be made this year, and I love 2000 video game adaptation. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love them. You've Bowl, Paul Wes Anderson, all those guys. I love them honestly. But yeah, when I saw that, and it's just like a return to form to that, it filled me with such glee because it felt like a bygone era, and it feels like that's kind of coming back together. Like Anderson's working on the House of the Dead movie, and like Uwe Boll is making another Alone in the Dark movie. So it's kind of like we're kind of coming back to that era. And when it comes to like video game adaptations in general, I don't like how they're trying to make this tolerable by making it like post-ironic. Like a Minecraft movie is a good example. I haven't seen it, but it's very self-aware. It's very ironic, and that's why it's apparently good.
Chicken jockey.
Chicken Jock. But like, there's the new Street Fighter that's gonna come out, and like all the cast is just comedians. Like Eric Andre too. Like what's that? I think I would just
Yeah.
prefer Street Fighter with freaking Jean-Claude Van Damme, dude. That's like at least sincere and not ironic. You know what I'm saying?
What about Zach Kreger directing Resident Evil?
Oh, is that which guy was that?
Yeah, it did Weapons and Barbarian.
Ah, I haven't seen any of those, but
They're pretty good
um,
movies, but I don't know.
I,
Worried
I
about the
think
future.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think so. Like don't touch Resident Evil. I think like with the Mila Jovovich movies, Retribution is a good movie, but he completely butchers it by making like a billion-dollar contribute to Mila Jovovich, which I don't really like. The elements where it's like,
Guys, check out how hot my wife is. Trust me,
yeah,
my wife is super
dude,
hot. Do you want to see how
she's
cool my
so
wife
hot.
is? She also is super strong too and
She's
badass.
so
And also
hot,
she's
dude.
hot, by the way.
She's wearing
In
all
case you
leather,
didn't know.
bro. Yeah, I hate that. And she's gonna be a mother. Like I really hate stuff like it's just it's up its own ass, and it just completely condone that. I don't like it.
You know, it's so funny because I actually you would have liked said I would have liked this series. Like I would have defended this like 10 years
Mm.
ago. But I think now I totally agree. I think I like the first one, and I think I'm happy to like pretend that the canon doesn't really exist. Because
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it I think that the video games kind of speak for themselves. They're perfectly cinematic. They have so
Mhm.
much canon. You have the Japanese CGI films. I mean, whether you like them or not,
I love
they're
them.
I love them too. And they're
Mhm.
cool, and they show the virus in the way that is more it's more parallel to actually how the video game is. So
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to have all this like extraneous film canon personally anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I think people kind of forget the point of like an adaptation. It has to be your own voice, and I do love that. I like it when like book adaptations or novel adaptations take a lot of liberties too, because when it if you're adapting Lolita, is it gonna be Nabokov's movie or is it gonna be yours? So yeah, it has to be have your own personality in general.
Well, they're going to adapt that Lolita with like Timothy Chalamet and like I don't know, like one of those like I don't know Disney Channel actresses. Like that's what they would do now. They would be
Disney
like,
Channel, yeah, I don't think Disney Channel is a thing anymore. Yeah,
well,
it's
those
way
girls that have kind of grown up through the system, through that
yeah,
Disney Channel network, we'll call it. Well, you'd have one of them. That would who would be
yeah.
your Lolita.
Oh no,
And
Timothy Chalamet is going to be the one playing Dolores, and the movie's name is going to be called Brolita.
I mean, it's not even wrong. You could like I could see that. Some like teal
Uh,
funded like Lolita the twink version. Like I don't know.
that'd be really hilarious. Yeah, honestly, I'm down to watch Brulita. I don't know about you guys. Well, yeah,
Starring Dasha.
She's not a
why is
bad
she in every?
actress. Like I know she gets a lot of hate, but she's not a bad actress. She's
She's
not.
great. I'll stand Dasha until the day I die. She's amazing. She's my
She is
queen.
funny. She is kind of
Mm,
funny. She's kind of quick. I appreciate that
mm.
about her.
I I don't really have a strong opinion about her, but I kind of so it's the thing. I'm on social media now. So if I wasn't using social media, I would say like yeah, she's cool, she's a nice actress. But since I've known what she's put out there, it kind of like why? It's like you know when you see someone you admire, it's like they say never meet your heroes. That is a thing you should take to heart because the moment you see someone on social media or just like you talk with them person to person, it can be like is just as you expect and like it leaves a lasting impression on you, or like they're just nothing like as you've imagined them to be. Just always a heartbreaking experience.
I'm sure people feel that way about me sometimes, but I do will say like they are not in their era. They are not in their era. Like the Red Scare girls or the Red Scare hoes or the Dime Square hoes or whatever you want to call them. They are not in their time. That kind of like that irony posting, it's not funny anymore. It's like it's kind of like it has like a bad vibe.
Yeah.
It's just not for right now, and it hasn't translated like through time and space like very well. So I think that they actually you're seeing them kind of on on decline on social media. And like I've never listened to the show, for the record. I don't really care about them.
Mm,
I like to be adversarial because people hate her so much. And I'm like, she's really not that bad. Like she's by
yeah.
far not the worst of like the, dissident, right? I can think of 10 people that I dislike far more. So
Mhm.
I
Totally.
just like to be adversarial and say, yo, she's okay in my book.
Mm, totally.
I ordered my
I
Red
mean,
Scare booty shorts. Are coming soon.
I do totally get that. Like, yeah, everyone's hating on them, so you just want to be kind of out of that loop. You don't want to just like, oh, because they hate them, I have to hate them too. It just kind of like comes back to what I said before, like even with movies, applies to people too. It's kind of interesting you brought this up because today I got really irritated by kind of reading the Japanese feed. And so yeah, Japanese scene of Twitter is really there. It's good. There's a lot of good stuff, but like they get really obnoxious about certain stuff, nitpicks that really agitate you towards the wrong way. They're really like anal about copyright stuff and like originality, which is fine. It's fair. I get it, but it's kind of like hypocritical if the person in question is like known for their works on like copyrighted material, right? But then today I saw something regarding, so Sion Sono, right? The love exposure guy.
Yes,
There's
I love that GIF where the kid is, like, doing the upskirt photos. I've utilized that GIF many times against people, especially, like, the Astro girls who, like,
yeah.
say dumb things, and you just, like, drop a little no GIF, and then they block you.
Okay, I'm
Face.
taking notes of that. But like, yeah, those exact people, because Sion Sono, he he got into controversy, some kind of sex scandal. I don't know. There's the details are all in Japanese, and he kind of like fricked off from the scene completely. But like, it kind of tied its way to the Nishimura, my bad, who's also my Umfi on Twitter, the guy who made Tokyo Gore Police. So he worked on a Japanese only movie called Heteroba, which is kind of like head roller in just like katakana, like Japanese way. It's a movie about like an apartment complex. It's shot entirely in iPhone and it's really edgy, it's really gonzo, and it's very, very out there. Like it's made with bad taste and it's really entertaining and just really well made, even if it's like shot entirely on an iPhone. You can really watch this. You just have to have like a. It's produced by Vice Japan. It used to be online, but now it's on DVD only. But that movie has a controversy, so I guess I gotta give a trigger warning to people listening. So it's really a nothing burger, though. There's a child actor. He's 13 years old. In the movie, there's an actor, like a former MMA fighter, martial Muay Thai person. His name is Wataru Chinose. He's part of like a Netflix series now, I think, or starring in it. But yeah, there's the story revolves around like these two mentally disabled brothers and like a grandma who operates this apartment complex of pure just nonsense people in general, and she's like a cultist of some sort. So this like this MMA guy chases after the little boy or the 13-year-old kid and like slaps him around, and the slaps are for real, but it's like in the same sense as the like when you're doing wrestling, they give him like slaps, like it looks real but the impact is very low. But what they specifically did, this Japanese people, they took the video. They haven't seen the movie. They don't know anything about the movie. It's an indie production. They blurred it and they put it on social media saying that they literally abused the child for the movie, even though the parents agreed, the child agreed, because like no parent is going to send their kids to get beaten for a movie set, right? And not even if a child, like they're gonna tell the child that you're gonna do this for a scene, it's gonna get physical. So are you gonna are you gonna be able to handle that? They're obviously gonna say yes because they have their choice. They can say no if they didn't want, but like it's blown out of proportion because there's this obsession these people have with like underground niche people in general, independent people that are not even Hollywood, because worse things have happened in Hollywood, but they at least they instead take like use these independent creators as scapegoats, like put them shame and like slander them constantly. I really hate that about the Japanese. Like it's really obnoxious. But yeah, the whole thing is blown out of proportion. But if they actually watch the movie Hedoroba, they could see there's more things to complain about because the whole thing is made of like bad taste. But yeah, like just that one behind the scenes thing they took and just like altered. That's gonna be like what people know that movie as, the child abuse movie, even though it's like nothing burger, really.
So this is something that I've always known about like like liking things from Japan is that like and you know this Herbie too is that they're as Puritan as American. They're just not
Mhm.
Puritan in like quite the same way. They get
Yeah.
very like otaku, like almost like OCD brain, and
Yes.
and then
Yes.
it's almost like you break the reality a little bit and they just like they go way off reservation.
Totally.
So,
Totally.
I don't know. I agree though that they do utilize like they have a high degree of faith in like more public institutions or like if it's a bigger corporation or like like Sony's making a film, Sony Japan, they like it a lot more or the NHK or
Yeah.
whomever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's some indie thing, yeah, they're definitely going to be like you're an outsider. They can be Japanese. It doesn't matter. It's
Mm,
like you're weird, you're doing
mm,
something like transgressive because obviously a lot of J video is superficially transgressive, not really
yeah.
transgressive, but superficially, yes. And
Yeah.
it obviously has a lot of like the girls who are like former AV like
AV.
yeah,
AV.
AV
Yeah.
models and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that and good for them to like
Mm.
transition into a cinema that wants
Something
them,
was.
like no
Yeah.
problem.
Mm,
But I do think it definitely they do see like the stuff that you and I would like or like the all the boys
mm,
would like. They see that as like kind of dirty, kind of like not worthwhile, kind of
mm.
embarrassing. And like a
Yeah.
lot of Westerners kind of do gravitate to that kind of like pervy hentai. I'm not saying hentai, but like that kind of etchy spirit of
Mm,
things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think you can just say both things are true. There's like high culture, low culture,
mm,
and this other weird secret third thing. And there's no problem with that because as you're saying, like Hollywood's done so much worse things. They've have like
mm,
put out films that have like such low production values. The direct to video market in the US when it was like a thing is horrible. Like I'm Canadian, but like I hate most Canadian films. Like I don't hate all Canadian
mhm.
films, like for the record, but a lot of them are really bad.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I can't think of anyone besides Cronenberg, honestly.
there was the Wolf Cop 1 and 2, and there's been a
I
couple, like,
think.
weird horror films that they do, and it kind of there's a way to capture a Canadian production. I will defend it and say that there is, but it's rare. It doesn't happen too often, but there is a way because we are funny and we have, like, kind of our own weird kind of, like, second world culture that is it is kind of American, but it is kind of like our own thing too. And so I think that you can capture it. It just you know, it, it's like right, it works on the system of like janissaries basically if you want to use like a political terminology. It's like people
Mm,
apply for the Canada Arts Grant. Everything is going to be relatively acceptable, like it's going to be within the acceptable framework of like what is allowed to be spoken of, and usually that is like more from a leftist or progressive perspective, and it's going to be like racial or it's going to be like gender identity or something like that. It's not really going to be about
yeah.
like the actual film.
Yeah.
So I think Canada film suffers a lot from that, and I think it's been happening for a long time. I don't think that's a new
Totally.
phenomenon.
Totally. Totally. I mean, in ways like Canada is like how Hollywood 2.0 because like every Hollywood director just goes to Canada to shoot. Like it's because it's cheaper than LA and all the taxes and stuff, so it benefits them more. Like Uwe Boll isn't exactly a Hollywood filmmaker, but yeah, Uwe Boll just shoots every single thing in Vancouver. It's kind of funny.
I mean,
Uh,
Vancouver's hella kino, it really is. It's like
mm,
a really beautiful city. It captures light
mhm,
really well because of it's always like kind of gray and overcast. So you can always like say, oh yeah, because LA is kind of like that. Like there are times in LA where it can be very smoggy and gray, and then there
Yeah,
are times where it can be like very Seattle and rainy. So it has a place. It's kind of liminal, and it can be sort of San
totally.
Francisco like too, right? Because there's that whole like downtown, which is kind of like the pioneer village sort of thing. Like they have got like the old Victorians and like even older stuff that kind of look like general stores. So you can kind of
Mm.
it can be at any place sort of. It's very that's very Canadian too to be kind of chameleon.
Hmm. I can totally see that. Well, yeah, Vancouver is. I don't know much about it other than it's really really expensive.
Yeah, it's really expensive. You're not getting a house for pretty much under 3 milli. Good luck.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's
but
everyone's basically Chinese apparently. That's what I've heard.
I mean, they love people. Okay, so I am mixed, but my dad's not from mainland China, so I'm not part of the quote unquote problem cohort. So I'll just say this: it's not in defense of my race or anything. I do think that I do agree that the mainland people have been coming in and using it as like a foreign investment product.
Yeah, I mean totally. Like not just like Canada or like foreign countries in general, but like even Hong Kong. There's barely any Hong Kongers left in Hong Kong. It's all mainlanders. It's really
That's right.
sad.
So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, and that's what Vancouver has become is and like Toronto as well, is like it's all like it's for foreign investment. That's really
Mm,
what it is. It's for real estate. It's for bringing money over from China where it's not totally safe. Like, yeah,
mm,
you're safer in Hong Kong because of the Hong Kong banking rules and all that stuff. But if you're a Chinese citizen, Hong Kong itself is not, it might be a safe place to live relatively, but you still need to have your money, like you need to have money in other places. And so Canadian real estate has always been highly valued.
mm.
There's a whole Cantonese lore, Herbie, about this. Like, I did an episode a million years ago. I know this is kind of not the topic, but on Big Trouble in Little China, and
Oh hell yeah.
he talks about like Jin Shan, like the Golden Mountain, Gamyan or
Mm,
Gamshan, excuse me, in Cantonese. So he's talking about like the Golden Mountain, and this is actually like a very important mythological idea for Chinese people when they were coming to North America. That North America would like be like this kind of utopia. Like it's not just like certain people like Cajuns from Louisiana, they also believed that like the new world would be a kind of paradise or Acadie or like utopian kind of ideal for them. So a lot of Chinese people actually believe this too, especially Cantonese people. So I think that's also part of like the whole draw to Vancouver and the West Coast in general. And
mm,
like I did an episode with Joe Nally, Pill Eater, shout out Pill Eater, Joe,
mhm.
good friend of mine and good friend of the show. And he's been talking about this like Asian Aryan Asianism for like I don't know 15 years. And obviously my word is Hapaborea. I know that that little Filipino midget
Oh,
red
you guys
boy
are
stole
totally
it from me,
winning
but
in the Hapaborea scene, like the Alice Lu, like
oh
Hapaborea is
yeah.
real, bro.
So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing is like so I came up with that word, Herbie, Hapaborea, like like years
Okay.
and years ago, okay? And there's that little Filipino midget who has like his like his podcast, whatever. Okay, that's fine. The warrior philosopher. Okay, he's like 5'6". I'm not even kidding. He's like a little short guy. Okay, I'm tall.
Really?
I'm 6'1". So
What's
he
his name?
always comes for me and he's like, "You didn't come up with that word. Like it's my word now." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. You're not even smart enough to like know what it really means." So if he wants to use it, that's totally fine. But what I really mean is like, yeah, it is the West Coast, like the West Coast of Canada, but even Toronto as well. It is kind of Hapaborea. Like Hapaborea is a real thing. It's like the experiences of all the Eurasians, all the mixed race people that I have known through my whole life, as well as myself. So it's like you cannot capture that better than Vancouver. Like you're gonna say there's one city in the world that is like the capital of Hapaborea, it's Vancouver. You go there, there's
Hell yeah.
like tons of mixed race people, everyone's Eurasian, everyone's Asian, everyone's Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. I mean, it's just it's such an Asian place. It's like it's impossible to get away from.
Yeah, that sounds like Heaven World to me, honestly. Let me just start with Wong Jing in general. So Wong Jing, he's a filmmaker in Hong Kong who worked with Jackie Chan and all the names. He has, I think, is the most prolific director in Hong Kong. He has like about 100 films on his belt. He's mostly known for his magnum opus. I want to say it's its exact magnum opus, but it's what sold the most. Gods of Gamblers or God of Gamblers, starring Chow Yun Fat and like Andy Lau, and from there it kind of spawned in like because Asian people love gambling. It's their spirit and blood, and that that whole thing started like a craze, and like somehow what was his name? Stephen Chow got involved because he started in a parody spoof called All the Winner, which I think was Taiwanese produced. And Wong Jing saw that, and that was also a hit success. That kind of like is what kickstarted Stephen Chow's success in general too. And like after Wong Jing saw that movie, he basically said, "Okay, All the Winner, I'm gonna take this, and it's gonna be a part of the canon of the Gods of Gamblers canon," even though he didn't make it. But like he makes a sequel to God of Gamblers. It's got Andy Lau, Stephen Chow, all the characters, and they're in the same universe now. It's kind of like it feels cheap because if people did that now, they were just gonna, oh, he's taking advantage of like a success, or like Disney bought this company. But back then it came organically, and it really did make sense. Like it'd be, I think it's also funny to combine like a parody and spoof and make it canon in general. But yeah, Wang Jing is mostly known for that, and his obviously crass taste in Hong Kong and humor and etc. etc. And one of the things he kind of started was the category. He didn't start category three, but like he basically took advantage of that because category three in general, they were kind of very low brow, and people wouldn't really watch them. Like the public didn't exactly watch them. It was kind of treated like a porno almost. But he took that as an opportunity and like made really morbid stuff. So one of the things he worked on was a script, and that was directed by Clarence Ford, called Naked Killer. Naked Killer had a sequel, but it's sometimes known as Naked Killer 2. Naked Killer has an actual canonic sequel, but there was a Naked Killer 2. I think it was distributed as Naked Killer 2, but in Hong Kong, it also goes by the title Raped by an Angel. And Raped by an Angel, in my opinion, is Wong Jing's magnum opus. It spans across 5 movies, and it is the most outrageous, funny, and even thought-provoking. I'm just gonna say thought-provoking because Hong Kong movies in general, they have a lot of political context, but like the way Wang Jing does it, he also adds it into like the whole era of that stuff. Like how can I say this? Like he perfectly captures the era. He perfectly captures the dating scene as well of that era, and the kind of like the ups and lows of everything, and it turns it into like a really morbid, relatable comedy. And the Rape by an Angel, starring Ching Mi, is a very funny movie, but it's also really, it's dark and unsettling at times, mixing horror into it as well. But that genre mishmash is what I love. And this particular movie we're gonna talk about, Rape by an Angel, Part 4, The Rapist Union. And this was, I believe it was made in 1999. It's post handover. Usually, Hong Kong movies post handover are really tame, very controlled, and they can do most stuff, right? But it's kind of crazy to note this. The first category 3 movie, well, before the Shaw Brothers era, there were really a lot of like disturbing stuff, right? Like Black Voodoo. I forgot the name. I think it was Black Magic. Black Magic, yeah. And all those stuff. They were really disturbing. But um, they didn't have an age rating, a traditional age rating like PG that America had. So it only came into existence when Chinese, like mainland Chinese, the Chinese Communist Party or whatever, they took they hired people from Hong Kong filmmakers, because apparently China can make movies, and that's when they made the first category 3 movie, or like one that was labeled or had people thought like, okay, we need to put like a label to this because it's getting dangerous, right, for the public to see. That was Men Behind the Sun. And Men Behind the Sun was actually Chinese produced, mainland Chinese. It was a Hong Kong production, but it was screened in Hong Kong, and that's how the whole craze started. So yeah, mainland China had an effect on Category 3 in its existence. But uh, like when the mainland Chinese interference came along, I think these were the rules. They couldn't. So people in Hong Kong could only show movies within the Hong Kong region, uh, without any rules or laws. That was okay apparently. But if they want to put their movies out in the mainland market, that meant government interference. So Rape by an Angel 4 is one of those movies where there was no government interference, at least to my knowledge. It's kind of obvious to see because it's still like raunchy. It still is unapologetic, like most movies are of that era, like pre-handover, and it's really really funny. Like, I would say this is Wong Jing's probably best movie in general, and like one of my favorite films of all time. You saw the movie, right? What did you think of it?
Well, I loved it personally,
Hell
but I just
yeah,
want to say, first of all, that this episode will be titled Graped by an Angel, as Herbie already
obviously, yeah,
knows. Yeah. And
obviously.
so, sorry, boys. That's I already decided. So,
That's
but I'll make sure the keynote's really strong and funny for the
I would
episode.
have gone for like Love by an Angel because that's what I do usually. Because I remember I realized whenever I post on Twitter, the word rape gets kind of automatically marked. Like I posted about a movie called Molested Diary, A Man Who Kept Stroking Ass. This is a Japanese only movie. But like that name alone, there was nothing kind of like outrageous about the screen. There were like no tits or ass or anything like that. It's just all like landscape shot, and that still got like age restricted, which is really bizarre. But yeah, I try to censor myself to like rape. I just say love because what it like in this context it really is.
Well, this is a really insane movie. Maybe we should talk about a little bit about the plot and just like actually how insane it truly is. Like even the idea of it. And like I will just say like there is a lot of Hong Kong movies
Mhm,
both like this movie and it's the category 3 or category whatever
mhm,
and all the different things are a lot about and the normal ones too are a lot about sex workers or prostitutes. Like this is a
mhm,
very common theme in Hong Kong, and I think it's also related to the subject we brought up right at the beginning, the
mhm,
kind of like acceptance of the profession in Asia, like in Asian culture, but it doesn't mean that that person will ever be necessarily an acceptable member of society. Sometimes they can be though. Sometimes they can be, but in terms of film, you see them as characters a lot. Like
mhm,
that profession will particularly be marked as like, and it's not like in the West where if someone plays it once, they have to play it every single time. Sometimes it will actually allow people to have like multiple sort of like sort of revive their career. They can play that role once and then they can go on to do other things. It's not necessarily like
mhm.
a killing mark. So I do think that's an interesting sort of like difference in how they handle sexuality. Now, this is a fucking crazy film and it is not. Um, it is not. Um, it is by no means like you can't watch it with your parents or anything. Like it's too crazy. It's too much. There's too much stuff. But why don't you talk about it, Herbie, a little?
So should I talk about a plot or should I
Yeah,
like
talk about
let?
the plot.
Okay, so the plot of Rape by an Angel 4, The Rapist Union. Don't get discouraged that it's part 4 or it's 4 in the name. It has absolutely no relation with the previous film. That's how the format is usually. But there's kind of like a thin line connecting the second film and the fourth film. And unfortunately, out of all the Rape by an Angel movies I've seen, I still haven't seen the second one. I've seen the fifth one, I've seen the third, but I haven't seen the second yet. But that's the only movie where like a recurring character appears, and you can kind of see her backstory from the flashbacks and stuff. But it's nothing too relevant. You can still follow the plot just fine, and it still does its job perfectly. So the movie kind of starts with like a girl going to the bus, and the news play out that a couple of rapists escape, and the girl comments I hope those rapists get caught and molested. And turns out the bus driver and the only other guy in the bus are those same two serial rapists, and they're looking at the girl with such an insane grin, with like a laugh in their face. They're like, "I'm gonna rape you" or something like that, and then it cuts. The title drops, and yeah, it's like one of the craziest openings ever. It's so dark, but it blends in comedy so well because of its sheer timing. But yeah, the whole thing already sets smooth from there because you think that's gonna be the absolute high of it. No, it keeps getting crazier and crazier. And there's so many cameos. And not only that, Wong Jing has this thing where he loves to genre mash or genre mishmash or like blend in genres. And also he loves to do a lot of movie references. It takes a lot of like influences or like not even influences. He straight up steals elements from movies like Basic Instinct and any other 90s movie that was popular in the era. You can clearly see elements of that. But the thing that's really the most unexpected, I didn't even catch this on my first viewing, by the way. There are references to Twin Peaks of all of the things. I don't think I've seen a Hong Kong movie where Twin Peaks get mentioned or referenced. And I thought that was, wow, it's kind of mind blowing. But yeah,
Well, if
the
anything,
movie.
it proves like I'm sorry about that, Herbie. Sorry
No,
about
no,
that.
no, go ahead, please.
I think that's really interesting too because it sort of does well. There's an idea, right, in metaphysics that like a lot of what David Lynch talked about was quite universal, even though it is very metaphysical. Like there's a Western kind of
Mhm.
hermeticism underlying his entire body of work. He does it in everything. He goes like very OCD with it. It's in every sequence. You can like deconstruct it and talk about how it's related to different things in different grimoires and different magical handbooks. That's all true, probably. But I think the other thing is like the underlying metaphysics is not that different between East and West, and this is a
Mhm.
big misunderstanding that a lot of people have. I'm not saying anyone. I'm not saying you, Herbie, or anyone here. I'm just saying
Yeah,
a lot
okay.
of people tend to see it as very different. But actually, if you're Wang Jing and you're like just like a crazy Hong Kong movie nerd, and you're like
Mhm.
watching all this David Lynch stuff, you're actually absorbing a lot of his
Mhm.
ideas, like talking about like film as a hermeneutic. You're actually like absorbing it in your own way and like through your own perceptions. So it's really no surprise to me that it makes a reference in it because this is also part of the sort of the genre of the film that you were talking about. It's called like
Mhm.
it's called like a local flavor mashup, or they would
Mhm.
like it's all for the things together. It's like everything mixed together. It's like
Yeah.
comedy, horror,
Yeah,
action,
yeah, yeah.
gunplay, all of that. It's all together, and like and even I'm gonna make fun of myself and my culture here, but even the
Mhm.
Cantonese inclination to like steal a little bit or appropriate a little bit from other things. Yeah, that's absolutely part of like Hong Kong cinema, no question about it. It's also part of mainland cinema, but they kind of
Mhm.
um they try to dress it
Honestly.
up and be a
Mhm.
little more professional, but it's more fun in Hong Kong for sure.
Yeah. I mean, mainland cinema in general, it really is just Hong Kong cinema in disguise or like quote unquote mainland, because I'm just gonna say like there's definitely good mainland movies, mainland filmmakers. I'll definitely keep them in behind my ear, but in general, it feels like people freaking the mainland Chinese took over Hong Kong just so they could like bring in their market, bring in their talent in the mainland, and like that's how Jack like when you think of Chinese cinema, is the first thing you think of like Hero? Not exactly. It's I mean Hero, despite being Chinese made, it's like starring all Cantonese talent, like Donnie Yen. I think Shugi is in it, if I'm not mistaken, and like all those like Hong Kong talent, right? But like um the the like when you talk about Chinese cinema, the first thing that comes to your mind, Jackie Chan, Stephen Chow. Like even Stephen Chow, I think his movies are like the most successful Chinese movies ever. Shaolin Soccer, Kung Fu Hustle, Journey to the West. It almost feels like the whole purpose in like capturing Hong Kong or like seizing it in general was just to like take their whole film industry and kind of expose it to the the mainland population, or like just to learn from them and to like kind of like penetrate the film market themselves, which they're actually kind of fulfilling. I guess like there's the I've never seen any of them, but there's like the new wuxia genre of like animation films apparently that's kind of doing well as a substitute to anime. I kind of forgot the title, but there's already 2 movies, and apparently that's kind of like getting a reaction. But I don't know if that's within China within itself, or like that's actually like a worldwide phenomenon. I don't know about that, but like that's something that they're trying to accomplish and just managed to accomplish just now, because so far it's been just Hong Kong talent carrying them, really.
I totally agree with you. I think mainland cinema, for me, I don't really like it. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, there's not. I
Hmm.
mean, it's fine. So I like them. I like Monkey King movies. I like when they do like Neja, or like sometimes the animated films are really good. Or they
Aren't the
did that
Monkey
one
King
about
movies
the
like Hong Kong made too, like by Hong Kong people, which is just the funny part.
well, of course. I mean, this is the whole thing. Is like
Yeah.
the Monkey King is almost like two different versions, right?
Mm.
Like if you look at Cantonese Hong Kong, like 90s era, like
Yeah, yeah.
whatever they were making on TVB, plus like all the different film productions that they did, it is like almost like a different story. Like, yes, it is the same, but it's not the same. It's like very sanitized, the
Mhm.
mainland version,
They
and you
are.
can tell that like it has gone through like a kind of cultural revision. That's
Mhm.
fine. That happens to all narratives and like all kind of folk tales and religious stories. I mean, it is what it is, but
Mhm.
I think that you can broadly apply that to all mainland cinema and say absolutely, they did not. They have excised a lot of the charm, a lot of the, like, local flavor, and a lot of the sort of transgressivity that cinema naturally has, like, sort of, like, showing a version of reality. It's if it's too produced, and this is the thing, Americans get like this too, like, American cinema does this often now too, like, it's actually, you could say, almost like a signification of Hollywood itself, is that it will show, like, films that are just way too produced. Like, there should be a little
Mhm.
grit, there should be a little bit of, like, something interesting with the camera, not every, filter has to look exactly the same, not
Mhm.
everything has to be shot with, like, every, non-diegetic light possible. It can there can be different, like, I think that's what is I think that's what makes cinema art, is that it has color and light, and it doesn't all look the same. It's not a homogeneous product, and
Mhm.
that's what I think China tries to do. I think China tries to reproduce the same kind of hit films over and over, and you can just say, "Oh, yeah, well, that's just normal," because, like, all film studios try and reproduce the hits, but I think, um, they try and use, like, a kinda scientific materialism or a Marxist kinda, like, materialism, and they try
Mhm.
and, like, reproduce it at, like, a factory precision
Yeah.
level, but I don't think it's there, and so I don't find mainland film that interesting, but there are occasionally things I like.
Mhm. Totally. I mean, most mainland films I've seen kind of like border on like really sanitized, kind of like imitation, or maybe a pale imitation of Hollywood. And sometimes it's like just pure on art house. And those are the ones that are kind of interesting and like appealing to most people. I guess those art house films are more relatable in a sense because they're actually about Chinese life and Chinese lifestyle and politics, I guess, because I think this is one of the things I've heard that the artists, quote unquote, that filmmakers who make these art house Chinese films, like that are like state funded, they kind of like play on symbolism a lot to kind of criticize the government and the society. Because if they did that openly, obviously they're not gonna get off easy, right? But that's one of the things they do in those art house productions. But I don't know how true that is, or it's just like people kind of like overplaying it and trying to make them more sound more smarter than they are. It could be a possibility.
I actually think that's a great point, Herbie. I think that that is like a contention that's been all around for a long time. Like, I'm thinking of the famous Zhang Yimou film Suzhou River from 2000. this was like a discussion I remember having in a Chinese cinema
Mhm.
film class, like when I was an undergrad, was that is this an art film that critiques the government, or is this an art film that's directly a product of state-funded education, like a kind of like directors, like a kind of as you know, state mechanism, like you can make your film and it gets like a wider distribution. So
Mhm.
I think it's both. I think that it's both, but I agree with you that there's an inclination probably for like Western film scholars or Western film critics to look at the film and say, for geopolitical reasons perhaps, oh, this is must
Mhm.
be a direct criticism of China. Well, sure, it's
Yeah.
obviously all cinema serves as kind of a mirror, at least, even a little
Mhm.
bit, of the society that it's made in. So of course you cannot really escape that it's going to be a criticism of China. But is it a criticism of China for someone who lives in China, or is it a criticism of China for someone who doesn't live inside of China? Because that's a very different thing. It's like Twitter is a very good example of this. You have a lot of people who are not American who criticize, like, I'm not saying America's perfect or anything like that,
Mhm.
but I'm just saying you have a lot of people who are not from America who will then criticize like America.
Mhm.
Well, it's if you take that as being like a criticism of America broadly, then you believe like all Americans are evil, all like, all everything the US ever could even possibly do is evil, ontologically evil. And we just know that's not true. And I think that nuance is really important. And I think nuance in cinema is really, really important. So I would just say,
Mhm.
I think you're right. I think it's both things. I think that you can look at art cinema as a critique in general, because
Mhm.
art cinema should serve as a kind of critique of the human condition, if you wanted to say of like a very broad theme. But it can just be personal, it can be quiet, it doesn't have to be it can be about modernity, it can be about globalization. And there's just a lot of things that doesn't necessarily have to be a direct critique against the
Yeah.
government.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I was trying to like insinuate is that I don't really I think that they are just products of their kind of time, and the person whoever made it is obviously a personal work to them or themselves. But in general, I feel like, as you pointed out in Western scholars, it's kind of like, I don't think it's for geopolitical purposes. It's more like it's like really easy, right? It's like the lowest hanging fruit that you can go for when you're interpreting a movie, and that's one of the biggest problems I have with like film culture and film scholarship in general. It's just like, oh, everything is tied down to politics. It's either queer politics or just like dictatorship politics, or it's like going against the government and stuff like that, which I think, even if it was true, I think it's just like the most laziest, most irrelevant like kind of meaning you can get out of a film. Like you basically reject everything and you're just seeing it as like a political tool, like a propaganda piece. I mean, it shouldn't be. It just should be an expression of someone, and like really value that. But like, yeah, that kind of escapes all scholars in general, and like Hong Kong scholars, like people, especially like Western scholars who tackle Hong Kong cinema in general. This is why I really dislike that whole scene, because every single person ties it down to the handover, and that's apparently the like the cathartic event, that like the whole existence of all the Hong Kong people is revolved around that, and it's not like people still live their life after that, right? Like they're not like recognizing that at all. It's all that, and it's really lazy. Like category three film, if you like read up on them, all the interpretations you're gonna get are just like political, because that's like the only thing that apparently gives it meaning. Like they're not gonna go philosophical with them. They're not gonna go like personal with them. All they're gonna do is political, because they apparently think that all Chinese people, all they do is like think about politics day in and day out. It's kind of like silly.
Well, Herbie, you know that our liberal kind of like I'm talking like liberal as in like the PMC, like people who are
Hmm.
the quote unquote gatekeepers, or like the academics, or people in journalism, whatever, even that, if that even exists anymore. But all those kind of people
Yeah.
are people who have like even like a paid film podcasts like that. They serve as that kind of same bulwark, I guess you could say, in the discourse as well, is
Mm.
that they see everything. Their brains are melted. Their brains
Totally.
totally think of everything as political, right? So they cannot even fathom that normal people actually aren't like that. They don't have any other friends outside of their like little Twitter PMC circles that just echo their exact same sort of geopolitical analysis. And basically they can't see anything. It's sort of like there's always the joke on the right wing that there's no one more racist than a left winger. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that as like someone who's on the right wing at all, but I'm just saying like it's kind of true though. They can never, like, people that on the very progressive side, they cannot understand that things can just exist. Like the thing, like Chinese cinema can just be, Hong Kong cinema can just be. It doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be anything we want it to be. It can just
Yeah.
like can exist on its own sort of like terms, and we can read it as its own sort of like stylistic or artistic guidebook. It can just, it doesn't have to fulfill our expectations or not, very in a filmic way. So I think
Mhm.
that they suffer a lot from that, and I think that they can't see anything. They also get told every American film is propaganda, which is, of course, all film is soft power. If you read
Mm.
any Chinese film scholarship, they're very clear on this. They say all of our film is soft power. All of our film is kind of like propaganda light. That's that's cinema, baby. Like,
Mm.
like I don't know what people are talking about when they're saying like, yeah, it's all like that. So it's how much you want to accept. That's how I would define it for me. I would just
Mm.
say, how much do you want to take of it? Do you want to like take it? Is it like a full the truth? Well, as a Buddhist, I would say most things are not the truth. So
Mm.
you take it as much as or as little as you want.
Mm. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's a healthy attitude to have. But yeah, it's like everything boils down to politics with these people, and that's why I would like encourage people to watch more stuff like Raped by an Angel Part 4, because despite it being really silly, it does capture like an era of China, or like Hong Kong, my bad. That, well, I guess it's China now because post Hanover, right? But yeah, you can't see that era. They're going clubbing, and like the whole theme of like predatory men, or at least that's what the so-called feminist kind of movements try to pursue, that all men are wolves. And that's the thing I've noticed within Hong Kong cinema. They refer to like predators, or like at least in the subtitles that are like officially government made, they always refer to rapists as wolves. And I think that's really, really interesting. I guess that's like more of a Cantonese culture thing, right? But it's just like seeing like these men referred to as wolves, like predators, or like the apex predators, so to speak, or like the alpha male, is kind of really funny. And yeah, like the whole plot, it surrounds around this cop who's more like a beta, because there's like a lot of like gender dynamics happening here. So there's the author who's like a romance author, but she knows nothing about romance. So she's in a kind of uh, what do you call it? Like a slope. Like like, you cannot get any inspiration from it or anymore. Like you're in kind
A
of like
slump?
a slump. Thank you. So she's in a slump. She can't do anything, even though she has a relationship of her own. That's not exactly exciting or thrilling. So to spice it up, what she does is like ask her cop boyfriend to put on like a ski mask and try to rape her while she's showering. So she can get a thrill out of that. It's kind of like showing that the kind of hypocrisy, right? And that women in this era have, that like, okay, she's like a romance author, but she doesn't have like a high ideal of romance. And like the person she's kind of in a relationship, despite being a cop, he's so like, he's such a klutz. He drops his own gun during a stakeout, and he has to kind of get out of his way of a gunfight or a fight in general, like by just being a silly a goofball. While as this whole stakeout thing is happening and this relationship dynamics are being exposed, we have this plot surrounding a kind of a separate plot between these alpha males, or the wolves, quote unquote, that are forming an alliance, hence the subtitle Rapes Union. So as we're watching the movie, we come across this one guy who's a neighbor. He seems nice enough. He's wearing a suit and he offers, because our main protagonist car, the cop, it kind of broke down, so he has to drive him over. Turns out he's not such a nice guy, and he has more sinister intentions. And as we were watching, as he gathers this group together, we kind of see the dynamics and the whole horror element of the movie kick in. That we got archetypes of rapists here, because that's also the kind of like the theme, right? It's like an Avengers movie, but for like archetypes of rapists. It keeps increasing. It's really hilarious, honestly. Like,
I wonder, Herbie, if there is a kind of mimetic nature to rape in the film, like because she thinks it as a romance novelist. It's very
mhm.
Lynchian in a way. Like she carries the idea through time and space, right? To like
Yeah.
become, and then it sort of kind of manifests in like all these like
Mm.
viral sort of outgrowths of rapists. And it also
Mhm.
is kind of prescient because this is often a Twitter discourse topic, like how
Mm.
women have this particular very, very transgressive fantasy that often gets
Mhm.
played out in both legal and artistic and sort of cultural battlefields as being like extremely, and I'm not saying it's not extremely bad. I agree it's extremely bad. Like don't do that. But I
Mhm.
think also like if you're gonna talk about it openly, like fantasize about it, sexualize it in specific ways, like how can you then say like this is totally off limits to discuss? And I think
Yeah.
that's even goes to the name of like the film. I think that's why it makes it partly taboo. It's like it's actually about a woman's desire. It's actually about, like,
Mhm.
her own desire. It's not just
Mhm.
like, men as the yes, of course, men are the wolves or the apex predator, but
Yeah.
that's really on her terms. Like, she's the one who's kind of sexualized that and made that the sort of, like, complicating, um, social convention of her reality.
Mhm. Totally. Like, this is one of the things I've noticed too. Like the more extreme exploitative scene of like Asian cinema is that how they tackle rape in general. Like the Japanese have a different attitude, and like Chinese have a different attitude. But the common thing that puts them together is that they're actually talking about it in like a crass manner. But like, this is something I've read and in a book by it's called The Confessions of a Frigid Man. It's by Masahiro Morioka. It's a really great book. You can read it in English, and I think for free. You can just like type it in and you will get a file for it. But yeah, I really recommend that book. But in that specific book, it's talking about like how the whole thing about like the concept of frigid men. So we've kind of, especially now, we're kind of being exposed to that with the whole insult phenomena and stuff like that. But like the Asian men have suffered through that decades ago, because like Asia in general like was more technically advanced. It was more kind of bustling. Like the cities were more crowded. Apartment spaces were smaller and smaller. That's especially true for both Hong Kong and Japan. And yeah, like there's gonna come a point where people are gonna get excluded from the gene pool, and that's gonna kind of start like a misogynistic loop. And those men, this is not a critique, by the way. Like this book doesn't exactly critique it. Like the concept of a frigid man, it's actually like kind of like a modern disease that people suffer through, and it's a very Japanese book. And the author himself kind of like accepts that, yeah, he was one of these frigid men. But he especially talks about like the aesthetics of JAV, and I've noticed that within Japanese stuff, and like not even just like AV, but like movies in general. When like a woman gets raped, she like is being resistant towards it, but then she starts to like it, and that's like kind of like a becomes like an epiphany for her. But like in Hong Kong stuff, when a woman gets raped, it's not really she's not really compliant. Does like get really, she does feel like she's been soiled. That's, yeah, that's one of the things that kind of been put through like Hong Kong cinema. It's kind of very different from the Japanese take of rape. They treat like rape as a soiling, so to speak. But like there's been instances in like in these movies where like rape is okay, is when it's like it's been with a prostitute. Apparently like prostitutes love that shit. But like it's more tragic when the person in question is virgin. Like in Japanese stuff that isn't really explored, and she does kind of like even she's a virgin. She resists it at first, but then she starts to enjoy it. And that's one of the aesthetics I've noticed, or the distinct kind of like ways of tackling rape in movies I've noticed within like Asian cinema.
See, what
This
I
is
noticed is that rape is natural in 109 species, but rape phobia is only present in one.
That is very true, actually.
So confusing.
Yeah, it kind of plays into the film's culture too, right? Because like the rapists in these Chinese movies in general are like more like predatory wolf types, alpha male, while like the men who are like nice people, and also as you can see in the movie, the chick just constantly nags him, like steps on, even though he's trying his best to kind of like make situations better for her, but she still neglects her, and her thoughts are on the rapist 24/7, like 24/7.
I mean, he's kind
Crazy.
of a beta.
Yeah, he's a beta. I,
Yeah.
I, I think the actor playing is Ekin Cheng, right? And that's like, not
Who's
Ekin, what
very
was it? Eric,
famous.
Eric Cheng, Eric Cheng, I think.
Oh, not
Yeah,
Ekin. Okay, yeah, obviously not Ekin. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes
Eric.
sense.
It's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, he's typecast as like the dorky guy in most of the Hong Kong movies. And he's like a chubby dude now, I think. It's kind of funny, but yeah, that's exactly kind of like a thing in here. And yeah, what were you gonna say?
I thought that you made a really good point a little ways back about sort of like the queer way way that discourse gets framed as queer, and then we are talking about like
Hmm.
rape, and like this is kind of a queering of the discourse. Like I'm not being funny or weird or anything like that. I'm
Hmm.
saying that like even the way that like rape gets framed, you could
Hmm.
say that like the taboo nature of rape makes it a worthy subject for discourse in
Hmm.
queer cinematic discussion. And I'm not using queerness as in like a label of people's like sexual behavior or anything, but just like as a kind of epistemological category of cinema. I
Hmm.
think that this is a very queer topic, and I think
Hmm.
it's interesting that you do see a lot of gender dynamics in this,
Hmm.
and also like it's for local audiences because at this time, as you were saying, and like the handover is not the demarcation point for all like
Hmm.
all Hong Kong history of all, but it is a very important sort of period where there was a lot of anthropology studies about sex workers during the
Hmm.
handover, and they weren't just sex workers because it was like a broad category. It was like mistresses, like second
Hmm.
wives, like things
Hmm.
that were sort of gray legal or like not quite legal or like more night based kind of like work, that kind of like sex work. And they were all talking about how like the local men weren't good enough anymore. The local
Yeah.
men they weren't going to be able to provide for them. Like in the 80s, you had like the boom where even a Hong Kong taxi driver could buy like an apartment for himself. He could buy his mom an apartment. He could buy his kids an apartment. He had money to go to China on vacation. They maybe go to Europe once
Hmm.
a year. I mean, the dollar was just so strong and people had a lot of access to the investment products.
Hmm.
So I think that a lot of the anxiety of the film is actually economic.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it gets funneled through this kind of like sexual framework, this kind of like
Hmm.
highly moralized, very anxiety ridden rape framework. But I think it's actually a lot to do with economics and like the
Hmm.
ways that people can make and generate income in
Hmm.
a culture that is very tightly wound, very tightly
Yeah.
controlled.
Yeah, like everyone in the movie is kind of like a really like high society people, right? The high society kind of like crowd of Hong Kong. It kind of like does put that economic aspect too. Like they're going clubbing and they're living in this freaking big mansions, and like everyone like her friend group is like authors, actresses, models, it kind of does really tie into all of that. But like, I guess you could also frame that in a way that the rapists in the film are kind of like how these people see the average or like the low income kind of like Hong Konger in general. Like I guess like by the 80s or 90s, there were like a lot of like second generation like mainland people, mainland Chinese that kind of emigrated from to Hong Kong from way before, from Guangzhou, I think was the Cantonese part of China, or like the biggest part. I think it was Guangzhou, but yeah. So there was already a kind of like a stigma around it, and there was also like they didn't really kind of generate legal income. They usually turn to crime, and I guess crime equals rape equals drug and stuff like that. But yeah, in the way this kind of movie kind of depicts that as a sardonically, like it's a very local movie as you described, but it's also really comedic, and like it feels like a turn your brain off kind of movie, but it looks so good. It's so well made. It's amazing. And like everyone is putting their heart into it, but it's also like a movie you can just like turn your brain off and watch, because it was like what for made for the most like most people, like it was like for mainstream consumption, I guess, like for the population anyways. The parts that really kind of like that I can't get my mind off is when so in the plot of the movie, after the rapists kind of get together, the main rapist, who happens to be like a former CIA agent, you hear that right, he's a former CIA agent who got in trouble for raping a woman in the States. So he had to go back to Hong Kong to start what he calls hunting, or I think he said fishing in particular. At least that's what the subtitle said. And yeah, they just he has like an entire sex dungeon of his own. And there's like a couple of girls there, and like the sexy part, the one that like brings people in for these kind of movies, kind of play out, but like it has like the most silliest fucking sex scenes I've seen. There's like two guys touching each other or raping a woman at the same time. Just so fucking funny.
Like, I think that the whole point of the film is not to be like a horny Cat 3 film. I think it's a
Hmm.
lot more to do with um this kind of like schizophrenic, like, who are we, what are we gonna
Hmm.
do, we're post handover, but we're also like Cantonese. I think that Wong Jing has spoken about like his preference for like keeping Hong Kong kind of local language, Cantonese
Yep.
cinema.
Yeah.
And I think I do think it plays, I don't want to overemphasize it, since I so strongly decried it at the like in more the beginning, but I do think
Mhm.
it plays a role. I think the
For
anxiety
sure.
is real. I think the film is like, yeah, I do think it's crazy, it's weird, it's horny, it has like a very, nefarious title. I think that's no accident either.
Hmm.
I know for a fact that they used to title like films like this to get a video rental exposure,
Hmm.
and like any sex sells, right? So even though it sounds
Yeah.
crazy to us, it's like maybe it's not that crazy to them, especially because that is what the film is actually about. So it's not really a
Hmm.
lie.
Yeah. I mean, but in general, like like it's still like like the for the average person, if like someone was going to a cinema, but like the movie titled this, obviously you're gonna get a couple of looks, like no doubt about it. Uh, but like yeah, it is. I think you have your view of the film is definitely on point, and yeah, there are several elements, and it's really silly too. But it's kind of like a trademark of Wong Jing as a director in general, and not just as a director, but as a writer. Obviously, he knows what the audience wants, but also he does know what he himself wants, and through that, kind of like expresses a lot of his ideas very well, even though it kind of goes into spoof movie territory, right? There's like a whole ass kind of callback to Silence of the Lambs, but instead of Hannibal Lecter, you got Anthony Wong, who was very infamous for playing roles in Category 3 films as like these antisocial serial killer types, rapists, and etc. This is one of the things I also like about Hong Kong cinema in general, because you see the same kind of actor in literally everything, because the scene is just that small. So Anthony Wong could be in a children film in one, playing kind of like a goofball, but like in another, he's like a complete serial killer who kills children. It's really nuts. But like, yeah, he in this movie he's kind of like a Hannibal Lecter type, and he's talking about how I also love how how he's nicknamed in this. He's the human milk drinking doctor, because he's the also the father of all rapists. Just so you know, he's like the king rapist, the one that is like the top tier, which is like how Hannibal Lecter was. Like he's the top like serial killer, right? The father of all serial killers. But yeah, they do that whole thing with Anthony Wong as a human milk drinking doctor, and they get advice from him, and he talks about the internet in a very 90s context, where he talks with rapists of all over the world. And yeah, the whole thing is just, you just have to see it to get kind of to see the whole uh bizarrety of it all. But it kind of, yeah, just talking about them leaves me speechless, because there's just so much things that is in there that somehow work, but it's also really silly.
Look, it is a Hong Kong Catherine film at the end of the day. It is
Yeah.
weird, it's cheesy, it is colloquial, it is full of very Cantonese, like backstreet humor. It has
Yeah.
a lot of word puns. Even for me, it's like I don't speak Cantonese that great, but like, yeah, I can catch things because sometimes they have the subtitles in like traditional characters. So if I read fast
Yeah,
enough,
yeah.
you can catch it. I don't always know like the puns because there's so many, and Cantonese has even more than Mandarin. So it's a very local film, but it definitely is. I highly recommend people watch it just because it
Mhm.
is gonzo. It is weird. When Herbie and I came up with it, we were like, yes, this is the one. This is like a Wong Jing
Yeah.
classic. This is like nobody on film Twitter will know what the fuck we're talking about. It
Yeah.
will be totally one for the archive. And I'm really glad that we were able to do this. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, like in general, I'm just like thinking like well, this movie isn't exactly, because when I first came across it, no one really talks about the series in general, for a good reason. It's not really everyone's cup of tea. It kind of plays a lot in the like socioeconomic side of things, but also like gender dynamics and stuff like that. But I think the first movie, I heard the second movie is good. I liked the third movie. It had its moments, and it was really. I think it was like the first movie, like Raped by an Angel Part 3. That was like the first movie to be shot on like the IMAX technology of Hong Kong at that era, which is really bizarre to think about. And you can quite see it in the movie when you watch it. It's really cinematic, and it's really like well shot, well lit, and it looks really expensive too. But it's nowhere near, I mean, the first one, and obviously it's nowhere near the fourth one. And the fourth one is, I would say, is the peak of the series, and the fifth one is yeah. So the fifth is directed by Billy Tang, which is mostly known for his Category 3 outputs: Red to Kill. Um, what was the other one? Run and Kill, I think was the other, and Doctor Lamb. These are like the entry level Cat Thief movies, but they're really good. But unfortunately, Raped by an Angel Part 5 isn't that good. I mean, it really is a disappointment. It feels very mellow and tame compared to Part 4 and the other installations in general, even though it literally has a Chinese guy, literally an SS uniform. No joke at that. And there's a girl cosplayed as Sailor Moon with red hair. But yeah, unfortunately, besides that, it's really just a disappointment. And it's like the complete low of the series. But yeah, I think everyone should really just watch the fourth movie, and it should have more attention, because I try to like kind of look for it if people have talked about this before. Not really. It's people kind of acknowledging that it's a funny movie, but they're also afraid to give their rating. Like I checked it out at letterboxd, and people are like afraid to give their rating because they think like they're gonna get judged, which is really sad, honestly. like if you enjoyed it, you should at least be vocal about enjoying it. And I don't think like compared to most movies out there, it is, despite being very crass, offensive, politically incorrect, I think it's a movie made with great passion, heart, and like intentions as well.
I totally agree. 6.5 from me. I would say 7
Hell
if
yeah.
you need it to be a 7 to watch it, it's a
Yeah.
7. So I highly recommend it. I agree. I agree with Herbie 100%. Like Herbie is not afraid. Herbie is not afraid. He is not afraid of getting the ire of the cinema crowd or Twitter,
Mhm,
film Twitter people. Like he likes what he likes. And we should
mhm,
all be in our own way. Like you should like what you like too. And like be
yeah.
unafraid and unapologetic in that. Just because it has a dirty, naughty title, that's not that big of a deal. There's a
Mm,
lot worse stuff out there, and
totally.
there's a lot worse fandoms to be in. And Hong Kong
Yeah.
cinema is rich and it has lots of, there's lots on offer. So like, who
Yeah.
cares? You know?
It's definitely less exploitative compared to a Hollywood movie that's produced these days, which is actual, like I'd say, like actual human trafficking. Well, these are like very ethically made. I mean, I don't really care about ethics that much, but like it kind of is crazy. Like you call, I know you meant it as a good intention or like kind of like in flattering way. I don't really view myself as an edge lord. I just might come off that way naturally to some people. I don't really try to offend anyone, really. It's just this is who I am, this is what I'm like, and this is what I enjoy. And that's what I try to push and do and indulge in. And like some people really respect that. Like I really appreciate what you said. And some people don't. They just like brush it off and like call me names. That's fine too. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of all I'm just trying to teach, or like even if I have an agenda, I don't think I have an agenda. It's just to it's the one to push yourself to finding your own voice is what I would love to for people to kind of like explore within themselves.
Yeah, I love that. And for the record, like I was calling RV edgelord in my meaning, Jin's meaning, which is like just someone who is willing to temper the boundary of like what is acceptable, not for any kind of social or political aim, simply because that is what you like. And if people don't
Mhm.
like it, that's totally fine. But I
Yeah.
do think it's important to expose people to like the other categories of like the whole plethora of things that are out there. And,
Yeah.
you can't just leave it to like there's so many podcasts about, like we were talking about this, like the Kurosawa, or like
Mhm.
even like I see one of my favorite Chinese filmmakers is King Hu.
Yeah.
And, he has his
Love him.
Taiwanese classics and then he has his Hong Kong, like his more mainstream Hong Kong films. I love all of his
Mhm.
films. But yeah, I see a
Mhm.
lot of people talking about them and I'm like, you guys should invite me on because I know a lot about his filmmaking style and I know a lot about Buddhism and I know a lot about Taoism.
Mhm.
I'd be able to like have a really interesting discussion about it. But
Yeah.
the reality is they want to talk about it as like very
Kind of superficial
mm,
ways, right?
yeah,
All kind of like
yeah.
stunts and stuff like that, or cinematography, when it
Yeah,
has more depth to it.
exactly. Exactly, and there's a lot of depth to it, and so I think it's good what we're doing, Herbie, you're my inspiration. I won't call you an
Oh,
edgelord in the future, but I definitely appreciate what you do, and I think
oh
that
man,
pushing the
yeah. Thank you,
boundary is
man.
something I like.
Same.
So
It goes both ways.
you know, awesome. And I think you do a
Yeah.
great job, and I think I loved your show in the past, and I hope you guys bring
Mm,
it back for Twitch. And of
mm.
course, any opportunity you want to plug anything, any of you, please go ahead. And
Uh,
anything you want me to include in the show notes, I'll definitely include in the show notes.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Me and my great buddy, Big Tony, we have this show called Gamesters. So it's a series of really short and quick comedic video game reviews where we showcase games that we want to draw attention towards because we consider them underappreciated or overlooked. And the humor and writing is very kind of late aughts and early 2010s, and it has like a lot of no holds bar, kind of edgy early internet style humor. Tony actually released just a week or two ago a Resident Evil 5 episode, and it's
mhm.
pretty good. I think it's his best one yet. So I really recommend you guys check him out. He's doing
One
some awesome
thing,
stuff.
just I really like. You guys should talk about the movie too. Like, what do you think of it as well? Like, You were silent the whole portion of that.
I didn't want to interrupt. You guys are like really passionate. I didn't want to be like an asshole and just like cut in
No,
between
that's
you
fair.
guys. I
That's
even
fair.
feel
That's
rude
fair.
just like speaking up, even though I was kind of like asked to give a plug. But I liked it a lot. I thought the humor was like really refreshing. Like they didn't hold any punches, and like the one part where Daniel's saying like, "Oh, if I lie to you, I'll get AIDS," and then he breaks his promise, and immediately as he's walking out of the room, he's like, "Silly woman, I already have AIDS." Like I really miss that style of humor. Like that just felt
Yeah.
like just so innocuous back in like the
Yeah.
2000s and stuff.
Dude,
Like
like yeah, every single mainstream like comedy Hong Kong movie, they always have like an AIDS joke. It's crazy. And that's why like I
yeah.
love Hong Kong cinema in
Or what
particular.
was
It's
it?
just really
City Hunter, where Jackie Chan is like
yeah.
talking to the
That's also
foreigners in
by Wong
line that
Jing.
cut him. Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, I hate you. I hope you get AIDS and die. Like
Yeah.
like you can tell the writing for the dialogue. He was just having fun, just like what would be something really insane for Jackie Chan to yell at this guy? That would be really funny for him to say.
Yeah, and like Jackie Chan obviously doesn't want like have that no. I think like there's a beef between Wong Jing and Jackie Chan. I've heard something about it, but yeah, Jackie Chan is kind of like a shill now for like the
Oh.
CCP, sadly.
I'm sorry that you didn't get to speak. I didn't mean for that. I didn't intend for that
It's
to
No, it's
okay.
fine,
happen.
it's fine.
We'll do a part 2. Herbie and I have already discussed a
Mhm.
couple things that we could discuss, and I'll let him run it by you guys. And I apologize. So there will be
Yeah.
a part 2, and hopefully you guys will, feel your presence is not just like you're not. It's not obligatory. It's like
Mhm.
you're actually wanted. So I apologize for that.
No, that's fine. You
Um,
guys are talking about a lot of cool and interesting stuff, and I don't want to just like interrupt it with random video game
I
bullshit
think
like I
it's
Yeah.
I
usually do
think
on
that's
our
great
shows.
though. I think that's great. That's kind of what made Kirk Castery was like the
Mhm.
weirdness of like like just the stream of like how the flow of the conversation would be.
Yeah,
So
we're all autistic here, like actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, that alone pisses people off. We're just talking about like video games, Beyblade, like movies, and I
Oh
guess
man.
that really offends people because it's not really highbrow and kind of like, what? Why are these people talking about Beyblade? Isn't that like a toy for children? Like it's silly, but like yeah, that apparently gets a lot of reaction out of people to call us like names, like call us man children, so to speak, or like things like derogatory name, kind of like
Yes, I am a
infantilizing us.
man baby, and I need changes now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really like like sad because everyone apparently like if you're not indulging in politics 24/7, like you're apparently not someone who's worthy, who's not an adult, and you have to go for the grind, you have to work 24 like 9 to
Are you
7
not
or
having
9
a
to 5.
heckin' wholesome one right now?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like really lame stuff like that, and like when you're just having fun doing your own thing, that alone like pisses people off. Like I've gotten such harsh reactions. Like you kind of frame me as like a more grotesque guy, but I mean, the fair, but like
You're the poopy
I
butthole guy.
no, I am more like I like the synthesis between cute and gross because I think we can see things of meaning in stuff like that are offensive, gross, and like
Very
outrageous. I
Japanese of
think,
you to say.
mhm.
yeah, and also with cute stuff, obviously you can see the more disgusting stuff. Vice versa, yin and yang, etc., etc.
Yeah, it is very kawaii, and then slash I'm also embarrassed that this is like arousing. That's very Japanese porn. Like I mean we all know. It's like
Yeah,
the girl's like embarrassed, but she's kind of into it too. So I
yeah,
mean there's definitely a weird sexual dynamic, but we'll definitely do something J
mm,
oriented next time so we
yeah,
can get into
Great.
that.
yeah. We love to. Yeah,
Truck, yeah,
I have
dude.
some good yeah recommendations for that. Like maybe
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll do
All right,
something
man.
occulty and
Mm,
crazy and weird. And thank you guys all. I'll make sure
yeah.
you guys get an
Thank you,
awesome
man. It's been
keto.
an
And
honor. It's fun.
okay,
Yeah, nice talking
awesome.
to you, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it was
appreciate it. It was
super
great to meet you
fascinating.
guys. And
Mhm.
you ever, obviously, I've extended the invitation to Herbie, but it's to all of you. If you ever want to
Mhm.
come on individually or as a group, you just let me know. And yeah, just consider yourself like part of the Threshold Saints universe. Thank you guys so much.
Hell
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for dropping by.